I like my husband's chicken and dumplings. This is just like a comfort food. You know, we're trying to get more dinners prepared coming up for Thanksgiving holiday. And although chicken and dumplings is not necessarily on everybody's menu, the biscuit portion can be.
You can do rolled biscuits, you can do the canned biscuits, or you can do drop biscuits. So we're going to do rolled biscuits, and we're also going to do drop biscuits on today. And our drop biscuits, you can take that same recipe and make biscuits with.
This is a meal that a lot of people in the group requested.
Yes.
I'm not a really big fan of chicken and dumplings, but I like my husband's chicken and dumplings. I just sometimes just pick the dumplings out because again, I don't do the wet bread. But some people, I guess, like it.
Well, it's a dumpling, not necessarily wet bread.
Well, it's inside wet. It's inside like a soup. Yeah, but not.
But it's good.
Yeah,
and it's perfect for the fall time and for the holidays as well.
Also, don't forget we have our aprons, our t-shirts, and aprons, t-shirts, and there's one other thing we had. Oh, shopping bags on the website, www.mwcantcook.com. Just the initials, mwcantcook.com. Make sure you visit the site. Make sure you subscribe to YouTube, to our YouTube channel, Instagram, all that good stuff. So now that we got the formalities out the way, let's proceed with our dinner for tonight.
So let's start with our chicken, getting it prepared. Now last week, what did we make last week? We made
cornbread stuffing.
Cornbread stuffing,
yeah.
Right? So when we made the cornbread stuffing last week, we made a broth for it, right? So yes. The broth is really similar to that same type of broth we made for the stuffing. So we're going to do that, and we're going to put our chicken down in it. So let's get started.
So what do we have in here? You want to start?
All right. Yeah. So we have some rosemary, we have some thyme, we have some sage, we have.
And that's fresh. That's fresh rosemary, thyme, and sage.
Right. And if you didn't use the fresh version, you could use the dry version. We also have a few carrots here, celery, onions, and peppers. And if you notice, I did leave them kind of big because I'm going to puree all of that. So I didn't take a lot of time to mince it up real well.
Okay.
And then we have our chicken, of course. But this is the chicken that's already cooked. So we're going to show you the chicken, how it's normally.
How it looks.
How it looks, right?
Like a whole chicken.
So we've got a whole chicken here already cleaned and ready that we're using. Now, I heard a lot of people ask us, could we take a rotisserie chicken that was already cooked in the supermarket or something like that? I think you could do that, but I like to use a whole chicken. It's gonna be a lot healthier. You remember growing up, or even today when you were sick and somebody made you some chicken noodle soup. So chicken noodle soup, they say, have a lot of healing properties to it. So I want the whole chicken, the bone, the gristle. If you buy a chicken and it has that inner pack with the giblets and the neck inside, put all of that in your pot, in your stock, because we're going to strain it and take the meat off of it and debone it. When I was growing up, I used to love chicken and dumplings, but I don't know, for some reason I really didn't care for that there was bones in the pot. So ever since I started making it, I always took out the bones. So that's what we have here today. That's how that looked. That was our whole chicken from earlier today. So we're going to take that chicken, put it in a pot with our onions, peppers, rosemary, thyme, celery, and carrots. And we're going to let that cook for about an hour on top of the stove. And then we'll take it off, let it cool down, take all the meat out. So let's get this chicken cut a little bit. So I'm going to take this chicken and I'm going to cut it in half so that it can cook a little faster. I'm not trying to touch it with my hands purposely. So have a good sharp knife if you're going to do that. Now, could you buy chicken parts? Now, you could. So what I always say is buy the cheapest chicken. You know, you get a lot of chicken when you do a whole chicken, but I would buy the cheapest chicken that's on sale and go from there with it. So then we're going to drop him in here. We're going to cook him until he falls off the bone. All right, there we go. Okay. So that pot's too small for what we're getting ready to do. All right, so now we got the big pot.
Oh, give me the paper towel, stop dripping down on the side.
I got you. All right, so now we got the big pot. And into that pot, we're going to put about...
And that's one thing you want to point out about the pot needs to be the right size. Especially if you want to make a big portion.
Yeah, so So I'm going to put about 32 ounces, a quart of water in there.
Okay.
You don't have to use water. What could you use instead of water? You can use all chicken broth. So we got a whole chicken. The whole chicken is going to have a lot of its own flavor. So I don't necessarily think we need to add all chicken broth, but I don't want to cook it with all water either.
Okay.
So I'm doing about equal parts, a quart and quart.
Okay.
I think we put 46 ounces. So
Yeah.
the 46 ounce container is good. Put
And
all-
we use Senso. Do we have the time we use? Let me see.
No, it's not over there. It's in the garage in the pantry.
Okay.
That's okay. Chicken broth is chicken broth, right? And remember, we were talking last week about we were talking last week, and we were saying, hey, save all your chicken parts, freeze it, and make your own broth. So if you have your own broth, this will be a good time to use it.
This is the broth that we use, that my husband likes to use, what we buy is the Senso brand, the low sodium.
Yeah.
I'll take
that.
that's the kind he likes. Okay, so
All
what
right.
else we got? The chicken, we got
So
the
we
broth,
got the chicken
rice.
broth. Now, this is out the way. We're gonna start to put our spices in, and our spices and our herbs. So we have our rosemary, thyme, and sage. All of that goes in. Our onion, I only quartered it, put the whole thing in.
And that's Spanish onion.
Don't worry about mincing it. I got a few carrots, 3 carrots, about 2 chopped up celeries,
Okay.
and a red bell pepper. You can use any color pepper you like.
Can you use red, green too?
You can use any color you like. Alright, so now that we have the chicken broth, the water, the herbs, and the onions in, we're gonna start to add the spices. So I
We
have
got pepper.
black pepper,
Okay.
red pepper.
Red. And how much of each?
So on the red pepper, I used a teaspoon, and on all the other spices, I used a tablespoon. You can cut back a little bit on the spices depending on what level of heat you like. So I wanted a little bit spicy, so I used a teaspoon of red pepper, and I used a tablespoon of black pepper.
Okay.
So now we have a tablespoon of onion powder,
So we have black pepper, red pepper, onion powder.
seasoning salt. Now let me show them the seasoning salt, because we talk about seasoning salt a lot, but there's so many different types of seasoning salt. I use the Goya
Oh yeah.
Sazonnator Total.
It has garlic in it. It's an onion, white onion, red onion. It has a lot of different seasons in it. It's really good. It's the Goya version.
Alright, I got 2 cloves of garlic here,
Okay.
and then one more thing. Where's the knorr at? So I
Right.
have the knorr
Oh.
chicken bouillon. You could put 1 or 2 in there. I typically put about 2 in there, but you don't have to put 2. 1 is good enough, but I want a lot of flavor, so I'm gonna put 2 in mine.
Okay. That's chicken bouillon.
Yeah, especially because I'm using water. So if you were using only chicken broth, maybe you could put 1 in there. But since I'm using water and I'm using chicken broth, I'm gonna put 2.
Now,
in
do it
there.
have to be Knorr? It could be any kind of chicken
It
bouillon.
could be any type of
Okay.
chicken bouillon.
Okay.
And now we're gonna put this. This is gonna go in later.
Okay.
So this is our Lipton soup mix. Sometimes I usually use the Knorr soup mix, but they didn't have that. So today we got the Lipton one. I'm not going to put that in now because all of our vegetables and things that are in here, they're gonna get pureed. So I don't need to puree this up. So this will go in afterwards for more added flavor.
Okay.
All right, so get that on the stove. Bring it up to a boil. You can bring that up to a boil, then after you bring it up to a boil, you could then turn it down and let it go simmer for about an hour.
Okay.
All right, until that meat starts falling off the bone, and you can tell when it's done. So what we have to do now is we have to prepare our broth. So let's give a little bit of explanation. You guys will get to see how this ended up a little bit later in the show. But a few minutes ago, we just put in our chicken broth. We put in our water, we put our spices and herbs in, we put our chicken in, and we're letting that cook, but that's gonna take an hour. So we kind of want to give everybody an idea what they're gonna have after that 1 hour period. So let me move this out of the way and let's pull this over. So after that 1 hour period.
Can you get a close up on this cameraman?
Let's get rid of this. We don't need these anymore. Or this.
Okay. So this is the broth after.
All right. So after 1 hour, I strained the broth. Here's my broth I had left, and I added my soup mix. So this can sit to the side. We're not necessarily going to use this right away.
This right here, this is what you strain?
Yeah, I strained it.
This came from what we just saw?
What we just saw. So this is the broth that's left. So I separated the chicken, the herbs and the carrots and everything that was left, and the broth. So this is everything that went in that pot. But this is how it looks afterwards.
Okay, and what do we have here? Look like some kind of sweet potatoes.
So it looks a little orange because of the carrots. So this is the same thing. So I put all of the herbs, the carrots, the onions, and peppers, as we said earlier,
as
in the
a
food
puree.
processor.
So why did we need to do that?
Well, one, because we wanted to be smooth and all of the flavor to lock in onto our dumplings. Put it back in the pot.
Okay.
Here's our pot from earlier. I washed it out. Pour our broth in there. All our spices.
Okay.
And we're gonna put this on the stove and let this begin to get hot.
Okay.
All right. The reason why we're doing that is we're gonna put our dumplings in here, and we want our dumplings to have enough space to cook. We don't want the dumplings to be all over top, the meat, and can't cook evenly. The dumplings usually take about 15 minutes to cook inside the pot, so there's a lot of space in there for them to be able to cook evenly and get all the way done, so you don't have like wet bread. You can have real dumplings inside. So we're gonna put this on the stove now and let this get hot. While this is getting hot, you can put your puree mix in there. Let me grab a spoon.
Well, it's not hot yet.
It's okay. Dump that right in.
Okay.
It's going to come up to a boil, and then you can turn it down.
And again, that puree came from the carrots, the celery, and onions and stuff that was in there?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, let's put this on the stove. And
put it on high.
yeah, you can medium, because we're
Now,
going
do we do anything with this?
This is going to go in a pureer. I just wanted everybody to see how it looks. So on this one, we have our, you can see a chicken gizzard right there. You can see the onions. You can see the sage, the celery. So that same puree bowl, here's all of it right here. So this is going to go in the food processor also. We're making more than one pot tonight, so this will go in for the next batch.
Okay. So now we need to get the dumplings.
So we have to get our dumplings ready. Once the dumplings are finished, we're going to add our vegetables. So we have some stewed vegetables here, and we have our chicken. So these two will go in once the dumplings are ready. These are pretty much already cooked. We just want them to absorb all the flavor.
Okay.
This over here. All right. So let's start with some dumplings. So let's start with this one right here.
Okay.
This is going to be our drop one. Let me grab some butter.
Drop? So this one you just drop in the pan?
Yep.
But what's the difference between,
All right. So
rolled and drop?
So the rolled ones, we're going to use a roll. The rolled ones, we're going to use a rolling pin. We're going to put some flour on the counter. We're going to roll them out, and we're going to cut them out. The reason why we want to cut them out, we want to make sure they're kind of all the same size and they look good for presentation. And then our drop biscuits, we have a 1.5 tablespoon here size cookie dropper. We'll use that to keep all the drop biscuits around the same size for the drop biscuits. So we'll scoop it, drop it right in. Okay. So 2 different types.
Okay. So
all right. So let's start with the roll ones. All right. So this is pretty easy.
What do we have here? Sugar? Salt?
So we're going to start with 2 cups of flour.
Okay.
Our baking soda, baking powder.
Okay.
I always want to say baking soda. Our salt.
Salt. Okay.
And this is our milk and butter. So before we add our milk, we want to cut our butter into our mixture. So let's get our dry mix. We could use a fork. Let's mix the dry mix. No, we're not sifting it. We're just mixing the dry mix all together. Okay. All right. Then we'll add our butter in. Now our butter, we have 4 tablespoons of butter. As you can see, we cut it up into cubes and we had it in the freezer so that it can be really cold. You know, not frozen, but we want it really cold when we cut it in here. If it's too wet, it's gonna get clumpy, so we wanna cut it in. So we can drop them all in. Make sure they're spread around, and then we're gonna use our pastry blender to cut it in.
Okay.
There, it's over here. So we'll take this right here.
Wait, what is this thing?
That's your pastry blender. All right.
Oh, so you just blend
Keep
it
on going in. Yep. That blends it in real fast. Now, if you didn't have this type of device, you could use 2 knives, but it would take a lot longer. But
It
you
looks
see how,
like
see how it's mixing together real well?
yeah, this is the fancy way to do it.
It's not the fancy way. This is the way people been doing it for a long time. I'll let you do it for a little bit.
This
so
looks like
you're
a
real
garlic-
heavy-handed. You'll have fun doing that.
This looks like a garlic press, a big garlic press.
So this is getting you ready for the holidays. I like how that feels. All right. So we're going to use that one more time. So we'll set it to the side. Next, we're going to add our milk. And
How much milk we got?
we have about 6 ounces, 3/4 of a cup. Let's grab a wooden spoon. Pour our milk in the center. I'm going to pour almost all of it. I'm going to add a little bit more after I mix it. The drop method to me is a little bit easier, and I think we need a little bit more. A little bit more milk. The drop method is a little bit easier. That's for sure.
Yeah, this looks like the Pillsbury dough flake ones.
All right, so that's about it.
So we need a little more milk. How much milk was that?
I just put a splash in it. So you can't measure everything all the time. So get it mixed until it sticks together. We're kind of looking to get a ball there. So let me see.
Oh, it's getting tough.
It's getting perfect. So you see how it's coming together?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Let me. And you see, I'm going on the outside. I'm not trying to cut it through the middle and do all of this. I'm just mixing it. And what am I mixing it in?
The same direction.
One direction. So that's pretty much it.
okay.
You see how it all came together?
Yeah.
You don't get any better than that.
You're a baker. You're a true baker.
Nah, I'm not really. But anyway, so for our drop method of biscuits, that's it. That's pretty much ready to go. We cut our butter in, we added all our ingredients, and now we would use our scooper. Take a scoop, drop it in. That's it. Okay? All right, so we can put that to the side now.
Okay. So now we gotta do our roll,
Yes.
and we need the other bowl.
Okay. So this type of method with the roll method is going to be, if you want, I'm glad you asked me about that earlier. I had to think about it for a second. So with the roll method, one, you can control how thick you want your biscuits. But a lot of people will make it kind of thin, like when you go to Cracker Barrel. So that's the roll method. You can roll it out. It's kind of thin, like a sheet, almost. In some places, I know at Cracker Barrel, it almost looks like pasta. I don't particularly like mine that thin, so I'm not going to do it that thin. I want a little bit of a dense dumpling. But this mixture that we're going to do right here, you can bake these and make some nice biscuits with them. So that's why I wanted to kind of do 2 methods so that people could see the biscuits version
They
as
can
well.
make them biscuits for Thanksgiving. They can actually
Yes, let me get some butter.
as part of their Thanksgiving. You need frozen butter?
Cold butter, just cold butter.
Oh, okay.
Already ready.
Oh,
All right, so for this one's really fun. These biscuits are my favorite type of biscuits to make. They taste a lot like Popeye's biscuits.
we got sour cream, we got frozen butter.
All right.
I was gonna say powder. Lord, we got flour. We got flour. You want me to pour this in here?
Yep, pour it in. So you can make these ones. This way, now you're gonna learn how to make my favorite biscuits. All right, so.
I thought that was your favorite biscuit. No?
All right. Put this baking powder in there and the salt.
Okay, baking powder.
Salt.
So wait, let me flour, baking powder, salt. Flour, baking powder, salt. Now we mix this up.
Yeah. You don't have to remember it. We have it on. We posted it. All right.
Yeah.
So now let's cut again. Go back and cut in your butter in. Let's mix. So
Okay. cut the butter in.
Yeah. So don't put them all in one area. Spread them around. It makes it a little easier to cut it in. If you put it all clumped together, it's gonna be too hard to spread around.
Okay.
Cut your butter in.
Oh.
Let's see. Let me help you.
I don't want to break the counter.
You're not breaking this granny counter. I'm gonna tell you that right now.
Come on, let me see the muscles. Let me see it.
But see, I think your method, you were trying to like punch it or slam it. All I'm doing is pressing down hard once I get there.
Okay.
So you want to feel for all of the lumps.
Okay, and where'd you get this method from, babe? I ain't never seen nobody do it like
I
this.
think this is how people been doing it for a long time.
I thought people melt the butter and pour it in the mixture and then do
No,
it.
you cut it in.
Okay.
So this would probably be similar to if you were making like a pie crust, you would cut it in. Now I remember, I think, doing this with a fork when I was a kid.
Okay.
So this butter was a little colder, but so you see it's taking me a little bit more work. I can still feel it. I want to keep doing that until I don't feel it anymore.
Well, it looks like it might be all on now.
No, I still feel it. That's a little butter there. Next, we're gonna cut in our sour cream. So we still have some more work.
We gotta cut that into
Gotta
it.
cut this into it.
So we got
Biscuits is work.
flour, butter, baking powder, salt, and sour cream so far.
Yep, there you go.
Okay.
Cut it in. Wait a minute.
Am I doing it right?
Oh,
What am I supposed to do?
there you go.
Okay.
Put it in. This one cuts
Oh, it's
in,
starting to smell like biscuits now.
but this one, you see this one, now it's cutting in really good because you added that sour cream. Now, here's the thing, right? It's not going to be fast, so we don't have to try to move it all around and cheat.
But am I doing it right? You
You're doing okay. Keep going. You're doing good.
Okay.
All right. Now,
All right.
I'm going to get another wooden spoon,
So what we
and we're going to add club soda.
club soda.
Right, so I have a half a cup here of club soda.
Okay.
Pour it all in. We might need a little bit more afterwards. I don't really think so though. But
Oh, look how easy that's coming together though. It's coming together real good.
yeah, a little bit more. I wonder if I'll put a whole.
You need.
I got some more. I wonder if I'll put a half a cup in there or not. But
I'm not sure.
I don't really remember. But
Yeah.
all right.
So we pouring more club soda in now.
Yeah, I think I put a quarter cup in there. We're supposed to put a half a cup. Yeah, see now, now it's coming together good. All right, I like that. Yeah.
Doing a good job.
So I'm not doing anything fancy while I'm spinning it, right? I'm just going around in a circle, and it's coming together on its own. I like how it came together as a ball.
See
Let
how it
everybody
came
see
together?
that. So if you were making these biscuits and you didn't want to do it from scratch, you use instead of using flour, salt, and butter and baking powder, then you would just use Bisquick, sour cream, and club soda. So that's the quick version.
Okay.
All right, so let's sprinkle a little bit of flour down here on our counter.
All right. So now we got.
So we got our bowl here. Sprinkle a little flour on top, and let's start patting it with our hand first before we do anything with the roller. All right, so now you can start to roll this out to the thickness that you want.
Right here, show me how to do it.
All right, so
Okay.
we're going to come. We're not going to, make sure this got some flour on it. And no weight. I'm just going to go. You kind of put a separation in it for me
We'll
already.
bring it together.
That's all right. We're going to cut it anyway. So
Okay.
a little bit more flour.
Okay.
So that cuts easy. So the other thing is, while we got a little bit of flour on here, you're going to see that this is going to help our broth thicken up a little bit. So we have our broth. We're going to do a little bit of drop and a little bit of cut, so that people can see how both ways come out.
Okay.
All right. So I'm cutting them. There's some. So I'll drop a couple on here. All right, don't worry. We're not worrying about putting all of them because we're gonna put drop biscuits too, for this instance. All right.
Okay.
Okay.
So now.
So we have our broth over here, which is looking really good. As you can see, there's a, man, I wish you guys could smell this. There's a lot of smell and flavor coming out of this. I also you can see it's at a rapid boil. I'm turning my fire down on low now. I can smell the chicken that we put in earlier coming to a boil. Let's have the drop biscuits.
What about the other stuff?
That goes in last.
Okay.
So again, we're not going to put the chicken and vegetables in yet because we want the dumplings to have enough space to cook evenly. So I'm going to do a couple of the drop biscuits. Make sure you get a good amount in there. Drop it right in.
Okay.
Drop it right in. So I'm trying to get almost about half. Make sure you don't put them all in the same spot, that you move it around so that they can have enough, you know, space to cook evenly.
Yeah.
Now, that's enough of those. I'm going to put in some of the rolled biscuits one. So let's drop these in here.
Oh, they look like they like soaking up all that flavor.
Yeah. So it's good amount of space in there. You see some of the vegetables popping up to the top, on top of the dumplings. I'm going to put this on there and let this go for about 15 minutes on medium. Low, medium low.
Okay.
All right.
All right, so now we got to puree our vegetables.
Right. Let's look and check. Before we do that, let's get a camera shot and see how the chicken that we put on earlier is making out. So I'll move it up here. We're going to give it a good stir.
Get in there, cameraman, over top.
All right, so you can see all the herbs. You can see the chicken starting to break apart. The onions and peppers, that's coming together really well. We still have some time for that, so that's going to go about an hour, and then we'll begin to separate it like we did earlier.
Okay.
All right, so you can see you got some celery in there. You've got some chicken gizzards in there, some sage, onions, peppers, everything that was left over
From the strain.
from the broth from the strain. A nice big piece of garlic in there. All of that was really good. Close him up. Put him on the food processor real quick.
What is that?
Yeah, I can't lock one without locking the other. Oh, we're gonna come right over here. All right, so that looks real smooth. Now, let me get a spoon.
So till it's like a nice,
Nice smooth consistency. You don't see any lumps or anything like that in there. That's all your vegetables, your carrots. That's why it has that nice orange color. Now, normally you see today we have the veggie pack, and we've got some whole potatoes. You could peel some potatoes and put it in there. We did have the canned ones, but normally, if it wasn't during the pandemic time, we would have the stew pack. It comes with celery, carrots, pearl onions, and whole potatoes in the freezer section. But because of the pandemic, they actually are not having that. And I went to multiple stores, but they said the producers aren't making it. So we substituted. We got a vegetable mix and some whole potatoes, and we're going to add that in after a few minutes. The rest of this,
you're adding this into the other.
we're going to add this in with. We're going to add that in with the dumplings.
Okay. But this we don't need to because we already put that in there.
We can put the rest of this in there. Yeah,
Alright, what about the other one, the new one?
The new one will have the new vegetables from the other one.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So we can dump that in there now.
Oh, wow, look at that. Why don't, is there gonna be any broth in it? The biscuits look like it's soaking up
There's
everything.
gonna be some in there.
Sheesh. My mama biscuits. Ain't that what you be saying?
Yeah. So one of the things that let's point out, I got a sink full of dishes now. All right, so you see the ones that we cut out. You see how round they look, and then look at the ones that we
Just
dropped.
in.
So they kind of have like a ball look. So now if you're doing this, you really shouldn't take the lid off. You know, you should just leave the lid on and let it go for your 15 minutes. I only opened it up so that we could show it to you.
And then
Then the last, then we will add our vegetables and our chicken in there.
After it's done for what, about like, after we let it sit
Well, for about 15 minutes.
For about
Yeah,
15
it takes a
minutes.
little while, yeah.
And then how long after, so after 15 minutes we dump this in, and then what is the next?
The next step is to just let your vegetables get hot, and once your vegetables get hot, you're ready to eat. I'm gonna rinse my spoon, and I'm gonna add some veggies in, because we're gonna wanna taste this. Oh, it looks so good. Because our stove's really hot, we didn't need a whole 15 minutes. They're cooking real good. They held their shape, even the round one. See, that's the scoop one, and that's the cut one. All right. So let's slowly add some veggies.
That really looks like gravy and biscuits.
Oh, for sure. So I don't want to add them too fast, you know, before the biscuits cook, because these cold veggies would have brought the temperature down. And in fact, while we're adding it, let's turn it up for a few minutes and bring it to a boil. That looks really good.
Yes. I'm still gotta have the chicken, so
Yeah.
I don't want to overflow.
Nice.
Oh yeah, it looks kind of looks like the color of like a curry.
That you're seeing that color because of the carrots and stuff that we pureed. Now, also, some people like theirs with the cream. I don't particularly do that. So you could add carnation milk or so and give it a cream feel, but I'm fine with it. Nice gravy. I'm a biscuit and gravy type of guy.
See, I knew it was gonna be.
Yeah, we're like
That's
right there at the brim.
Yes.
Nice. All right.
And we just cover it up. Cover him up.
Cover him up. Bring that to a boil. Once it gets to a boil, let it go for a few minutes. That's hot. And then that's it. So we were talking earlier about your chicken. We had our chicken on for about an hour. So I just wanted to give everybody a quick look at how it looks at least before.
Okay. Oh, it's falling this. So you gonna put it in here?
Yeah.
Okay. This is the whole chicken we had.
So that's your chicken there. I'm gonna
And
get the veggies out the way.
so you can what, puree that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So as you can see, falling off the bone, there's no problem with it. And the reason why we gotta take it out, we gotta let it cool off because it's too hot to separate by hand right now.
Okay.
Next we would, there's our same bowl. So,
So you gonna dump it in there? Hold on
give
now.
you guys a little idea of what we did earlier, so kind of working backwards a little bit.
Go ahead.
Alright,
What you need?
it's a little hot.
You need the hand.
Alright. It's hot.
Okay. And these are what you puree, right?
So these are the vegetables that are left. We can set that to the side. Let that cool off. We'll puree it. And we talked about earlier our soup mix. Drop that right in.
And it's hot, so it's really cooking that soup already.
Well, it's already cooked. It's just more flavor. And once we're done with this, this can go back in a pot. We can add more dumplings to it, and we would add more chicken, more puree, and we'll have more chicken and dumplings. So that way everybody has a full idea. So this is what we started with in the beginning that we added our dumplings to. And we pureed this that was left, put it back inside there. Now we did put rosemary in there, and rosemary has some stems. I pulled all the stems out before I pureed it.
Okay. All right, so let's taste our product here.
Okay.
Do we need to get a bowl?
Yep, let's move this out the way so that we can taste it. Alright, so I'm gonna get 2 dumplings on there.
Okay.
So, here's here's the one that was our drop one, so it's more of a round ball. So different shape as well. Here's our flat one. Trying to get it in so everybody can see it. That's the one we rolled out. That's the one I'm kind of more interested in. As you can see, a lot of chicken in there, no bones, or whole potatoes and vegetables. So you have a whole meal all inside there. Now, let's look at this one. Cut that one in half. All the way done in the inside.
Yes.
So looks pretty good to me.
Let's see.
So hopefully you guys will get a chance to make this and share it and post it. It's really good. Very flaky. I didn't try the other one though. Let's try this version.
It has like a kick to it, that spice, like that red pepper. You put in there, I can taste that, like the spice. But you can taste all the flavors coming together.
So when earlier we were talking about, is there going to be a difference in the taste between the two dumplings? We made two different ways, a rolled version and a drop version.
What's the difference?
Well, they both had different ingredients too.
Yeah, but
I like the drop one better. I thought I was gonna like the roll one better. I actually like the drop one better. So,
why? What's the difference?
The drop one seems like it has more of a buttery flavor. It had more butter in it, so that could be why. Yeah. So you could do the roll ones and add more butter instead of sour cream to give it a better flavor.
So again, we thank everybody for tuning in tonight. And we're good. Good job. Another one in the books.
Yeah.
So, and again, thanks for tuning in. My wife can't cook. Where some of us can cook, some of us can't. But either way, we cooking. You all have a blessed night.